Hello everyone, welcome to the Redmen TV for a very special show. As we all know, Liverpool not been great for a reasonable spell of time.
Breaking
now
news.
In the season. Breaking news. You know, yeah, no yellow ticker tape needed for that one, unfortunately. So we thought, obviously, a lot of people having a lot of big conversations about the club at the moment. We thought we should be no different. I don't think it was something that we could answer with a brief chat or whatever. So we're gonna give this the full time and attention that it requires. It'll go as long as it goes. We're aiming for 2 parts. It could be 3. We'll see how it goes on. But we're going to be looking at basically where it's going wrong for Liverpool Football Club, and that's on the pitch, on the touchline, and in the higher ups of the football club as well. We're going to go through all those areas and then looking forward to the future and what can Liverpool do to remedy some of these problems that we will have established along the way. Chris Pajak's here, of course he is, and Steele's here as well. So it's basically the dream team, which is a good way to kick things off.
Yeah, you've put me in a good mood for starters, so that's good.
Exactly. Is there anyone else we were missing that would have made this the dream team?
Aubrey.
Yeah.
It would have been a 6-part special. Got only the video till Christmas. We'd be good again by the time we stop talking, so I'm alright.
So I thought it was worth, kicking off, it's worth having a look at where we are, just to provide some context of all this. Yeah, fifth in the league with a point behind Arsenal.
Didn't need research for that.
No. A point behind 4th place Arsenal. We're 4 points behind Spurs, who are 2nd at the moment, but we're miles behind Chelsea. That's not even worth considering it. So we got some interesting stuff that's cropped up around the internet. It actually comes from a tweet to our good friend Andrew Beasley at Base Tunes Rebel. This is James Hilliard who made a mention of this. He was at Gasometer on Twitter. And it's basically looking at Liverpool's position after 24 Premier League games in Premier League history. So that's from 1992 to 2017. And what's interesting still, because we've been doing this on the statue of a week, well, it was weekly, but it was like the benchmark, and we were calling it, wasn't it, Chris, and how this season stacked up by comparison to the other good seasons in recent memory, most significantly being 13-14.
It did stack up.
Yeah, but even so, that being said, this is still only our third best points total at this point of the season, behind those 2 aforementioned seasons. And in terms of goals, 2nd most goals we've scored at this point. It's the goals against, which is obviously, I think we know, which is where things don't look quite so favourable. I mean, as a comparison to 08-09, there is no comparison. We've conceded double the amount of goals, 30, we conceded just the 15 we conceded in that season. But equally, and I think most of us could have told us this, we only scored we conceded one more goal, I should say, than this point on 13-14. So, you know, I think there's still, regardless of all of it, there's definitely some sense of encouragement there. The thing for me, and I'm always reminded of a time when you picked up a speeding ticket, and
Which one?
The one when you were driving.
Oh yeah.
Can you remember the expression?
I was still speeding up.
Yeah, you got caught doing 50 miles.
47 in a 40 zone, and yeah, I think I'd said I would have hit 70 before I stopped. So fair play for the ticket. Like.
You were only 7 miles an hour over the speed limit, but another second you'd have been 8, 9, 10, and so on and so forth. So in the reverse of that, the question is, it's all well and good looking at where we are at this point, but if Liverpool's form continues like this, we're not going to be able to make any of these comparisons anytime soon.
No, and look, I don't really get the point of looking back over the course of the seasons, I'll be perfectly honest, because so much changes on a season-by-season basis. The clubs that you're playing against get better or worse. The amount of players that you have in your squad, the injuries and all that type of stuff, it all changes. But fundamentally, what we're getting at, I suppose, with this is that we need to arrest this form now. We need to turn it around right now because, you know, we're on a slippery slope. I think 13-14, we were really starting to gain almost 3 points every single game at this point, whereas we're starting to lose 2 points a game every single game.
It's not, at the time of film, the day we're filming this, which is the Wednesday, this is the 3rd anniversary of us beating Arsenal 5-1, Steve. So exactly what Chris is saying, this is the point of the season, 13-14, which is already a season which we're now slipping below that benchmark, as it were. The season we finished 2nd, that was when we started to kick into high gear. We started to beat teams, I say, Chris, not just beat them, but beat them well as well at this point, whereas our season has massively stagnated this year.
Yeah, I remember being outside the ground on one of the match reactions. I can't remember which game it was, to be honest, off the top of my head now. It might have been Southampton, actually. And I said, January is usually where Liverpool, historically, the last few years, have always kicked on.
Yeah.
So Klopp did it last year to an extent. We had a couple of bad results, but you know, on the whole, we did well. We reached 2 cup finals. We had some good wins against good teams. the year before was a bit. The year before that was, like I say, Brendan's team were flying. So it was weird to see a January this year just go the complete opposite way.
Yeah.
Where New Year's Eve, we've just beat Man City, all fine. 2 days later, we draw at Sunderland, and since then, it's just been absolute dog shit.
Yeah.
And I agree. Looking back at old seasons is great, points and goals and stuff, and I kind of get it, but each season's its own thing. Yeah. So 08, 09, 13, 14, this point, I think we were second, but we were close to Man City. And Chelsea, we were top 3. This year, Chelsea are miles ahead.
Yeah.
And the second to sixth is so bunched up. It's just completely different.
What's really interesting about this, and it's a shame that we can't put this up on the screen. I wonder if we could you write it down for us, Tom? When you look back at every single season, you look at the form that we've gone through, this is the lowest point total from these games. So the form on this table and on this tweet specifically is 5 games. Yeah. We've gained 3 points from those 5 games. That's the lowest out of every season in the Premier League on the last 5 games at 24. Yeah. The second is actually 15-16, which is a little bit of a worry in itself as well because we gained 4 points in those 5 games last season, and that's Klopp in the winter break. People would talk about it being Klopp in the winter break. We've come out of December both times, and they're 2 of the worst seasons in the Premier League history that we've had in those 19 to 24.
It's no coincidence, is it? And I know we're going to get onto squad depth and everything else later, but as you get more games, and we keep getting cup replays, which we had, we were also in the League Cup last year, semi-finals and got to a final. The more games we play in January, it's no coincidence that the league form is affected. I'm all for cup competitions, I get it. We do want to win trophies, but there's no doubt in my mind that these cup games at this stage of the year definitely affect us in the league. Yeah. And especially when you end up with replays. Yeah. Replays kill you. So the Plymouth replay done us in. We just didn't need it, and we had to do it.
Plymouth replay plus a double-legged semi-final in the League Cup as well.
Yeah, it just doesn't help at all, does it? And sometimes you need to rest players. You do. There's no way we could have played the best team against Plymouth the first game, but by not winning that, it was just another game we didn't need. By the time we got to Wolves, confidence was done and we were knackered anyway. Yeah. And it's definitely having an effect on our league status. And until Jürgen can make 6-7 changes, where you think, oh yeah, no kids, that's fine. I think we're going to be in this boat all the time.
I'm not even sure that it's 6 or 7 changes, and I think it's. Well, sorry. I get what you're saying for like the cup games. Yeah. It's but maybe it's that ability of just that extra couple, 2 players that are good enough that you don't see a dip off in quality, because that's when the issue. Again, we'll definitely come to that a little bit later on. And the big concern, obviously, at the moment is 1 win in 10 in all competitions in 2017, and that is skewed by the cups, because I think to some extent you can take the cups out because they were massively changed teams. But it is what it is. It's your football club. There's no taking it away, because Liverpool, it's the same kit, it's the same manager, it's the same, the form, tactic, whatever. Everything about it is still Liverpool Football Club that goes out there. And there should have been, or we would have definitely liked to have seen better showings in that simply because this hasn't been good enough, no matter which way you pull games out.
I think you're right there. I think, you can talk about, most people talk about the confidence of the squad and stuff, don't they? And when you have cup competitions and you don't play well in them, let's not just brush this aside. There wasn't 11 changes. There was first teamers involved every single time. There was the likes of Divock Origi being involved in those games, who'd been playing up front for us for 8 weeks or something like that. Every single time we had one of those games, yes, we made loads of changes, but there was still first teamers in there, the Wijnaldums, the Chans, I think Coutinho might have got a run out in one of them as well. So their confidence is knocked as well as the squad's confidence and stuff. So it's been a horrible January. It's the first time I can remember we've gone through an entire month without getting a win under our belts. Yeah. An entire month.
It's been mad, and like you say, the Southampton games, that was our first team. They were cup games, but that was our best 11 out twice. Yeah. So you can include them, I think, in it. I get your point on Plymouth and Wolves. I would expect us not to be fluent in those games. Yeah. But I would expect us to win. Yeah. But the league form has been shit.
The problem with those games is that, and I wonder, and as with anything, this is the one thing that we will never be able to know, so we can speculate, and it'll depend on what kind of mood you're in, I guess, to speculate it, is that we could have been more pragmatic in those cup games. Like I said this about Man United, now they approach the the whole game. You know, they went long. You know, they found a way to. I think it was the whole game. It was one of their cup games anyway. It might have been the FA Cup game, and Fellaini scored the opening goal in that match because they just went back. They went to their long ball tactic for that. And when you're not, because here's the problem: when you're playing a particular brand of football, say, if that needs everyone performing to the best of their ability, and if you lose that, and things, as we say, you know, it's only as good as the weakest link. That kind of stuff. That's the problem we've got. Is have we stuck to a particular way of playing so that these lads are more capable of slotting in when we need them, like later this season, next season? That's admirable, but it makes you wonder what short-term goals or long-term goals.
I think for me on that is that we've got one of the youngest squads as well. You know, we need to be able to drop players in. Exactly what you're saying there. We need to be able to continue what we're doing because they are all developing into these roles. Whereas Manchester United got loads more money than us, but be a lot more experience in their squad, and they'll have the experience to draw upon where you're going. Especially Fellaini, he's dogged out results at Everton. You know what I mean? There's big players for that side who've played in different systems. A lot of our players that we've been relying on are young, haven't got the experience that they can draw upon of playing in these type of games where you just have to dog out results.
And also on that, I think we're the only team in the, maybe Arsenal actually, in the top half, top six, or as an Arsenal, I'd say, who can't win unless they play well. Man United, Man City, and Chelsea and Spurs especially Chelsea and Spurs and Man United definitely have proven that they don't have to play well to win.
I think we did though in December.
I think but even in those games, so you're talking Swansea,
Middlesbrough, Everton, Stoke, City.
Yeah, we battered Middlesbrough, but Swansea we were good second half. We were really good. We were on it. We've never had a game where we've just looked like we're not there. We're not at the races at all, and still got something from it.
That Swansea one was like September though. But if you go back and you look at Everton, I don't think we played particularly well, but we managed to dog out a victory there.
Yeah, I think you're right in a general sense. Moreover, it's something that we need to have more of. I don't think they've been absent. I think we've had a couple of examples of that, but you wouldn't say it was. You look at the way Arsenal have pulled so many points back from the jaws, from the gaping maw of upset.
City have been crap for a while.
In the last couple of minutes
City have been a bit rubbish, and don't get me wrong, they've lost some games they should never have lost. But against Swansea at the weekend, for example, they did not play well. They went ahead. They were a bit rubbish. They were. Swansea, deservedly got a goal back, and then City went and won in the last minute.
I think that's more down to I hate saying it, but a higher calibre of player.
No, yeah,
when things aren't going right, you've got that magic moment, an individual who can pull something out.
And that's my point. Is that
we don't have.
When Liverpool when we were at our best, we were unstoppable. Yeah. We were the best team in the league in terms of going forward. We scored goals for fun, and we just put teams to the sword. I don't think at the minute we're never going to get into a point where we're crappier, but someone's going to bail us out the shit. That's how you feel now. So Jesus has bailed Man City out the shit a bit by coming in. Zlatan for a lot of the time has bailed United out of the shit a bit. And Sanchez has done it for Arsenal. And Kane and Ali have done it when they've not played well. Yeah. At the minute, I can't see us having player ratings. Everyone gets a 6 and Liverpool won 2-0. Well, I just don't see it happening.
Let's ask a question of you, Steve. What would you say from just watching how Liverpool have played in the last 6 weeks or so? What would you say has changed in terms of how we've been playing? Because I again, on a pure eyeball test, you'd say the first 3 or 4 months of the season we were absolutely sensational, and I felt that once Phil Coutinho went out that side, we lost the brilliance, but we went back to being good. And then since then, it's gotten worse. But it doesn't feel like we've got that spark or whatever it was that we had in November.
I think, to answer your question, I think it'd be tempo. I think we're slower at what we do. Everything's a bit more methodical. So everyone's, rather than taking 1 touch, I think players are taking 2, rather than taking 2 touches to 3, 4 and 5. Partly because there's a blueprint how to beat us now or how not to get beat by us, and that helps. It's all right for a manager to say, you know what, lads, we're playing Liverpool this week. They just won 6-1. What we're going to do, we're going to park a bus. And the players probably look at each other going, oh, what's the fucking point in that? But if you go, here's what Swansea, and here's what Sunderland, and here's what Southampton have done to Liverpool, and Man United to an extent, and look, they've won, they got a point, and they won. As a player, you would buy into that and go, if we do that, for example, Hull's players would not get near Liverpool's squad. They just wouldn't. Nowhere near. But having seen Swansea do it, having seen Saints do it, and etc. Wolves, Plymouth, you know what? It bloody works. And I think if you told me, Steve, you come on the show, but by the way, I want you to do keep ups as you're playing and start juggling, I can't fucking do that. What's the point of that? But if you say...
Don't do yourself down, Steve.
No, but really, but then if you said, Steve, come in, and I'm going to do what Chris does. You're not as experienced as Chris, because Chris has been doing it for a while. But if you do this, the viewers like that. For example, here's what the Redmen TV fans like to see, and it works because people obviously like your show. And that's what happened to me. You know, when I first come in, you said...
I like the juggling idea.
Yeah, don't ask me to juggle. But you said, here's...
I think if you can do it, Steve, do it.
Yeah, I can't.
I think they'll love it.
That's my point, I can't.
Leave a comment below.
Honestly, I don't really want to juggle. But you come in, and here's how it works, and here's what you get out of it. And it gave me confidence. So, I host a show now, for example, because I learned, you told me how to do it, and there was a clear goal. Now, as a manager, you know what, lads, Liverpool, if you defend well and get them wide, make them do 55 crosses, they're unlikely to score against you. Plus, they can't defend for shit. So we'll get one chance.
Yeah.
And if we take that one chance, we'll win this game. And Southampton done it in the Cup twice, and Hull have just shown it. I think that must give you massive, massive confidence going into a game.
Yeah. So let's talk through some of the chief criticisms then, I guess, Chris. I think what's interesting to look at, because you've got a stats pack for us here, which is very interesting, which compares the January, December, and November.
September,
in terms of, shall we say, when we were good, when we thought we were middling, and when we've been the shittest that we've been.
Okay, so we'll put it up on the screen for you now, and as you can see for everybody here, we've compared January to December and September. It's actually late August, September, and I think one of those games might have been very early October, but for the sake of my graphic, I've just put September, okay? Yeah? Sounds. Okay, we'll move on. So I think when you look at January, we have drawn 3, lost 2. When you look at December, we won 4, drew 1. When we look at September, we won 4, drew 1. But in very different ways, I suppose. When you look at December, I don't think everybody here would say we weren't firing all cylinders. We didn't have Phil Coutinho in the starting 11. When you look at September, I think that's the period of time where we were like completely and utterly fucking on it. Unstoppable. Look at the teams we've beaten the league champions in the first home game of the season, 4-1. We did Chelsea before they changed formation. We did a 10-man Hull, 5-1. And we came back and showed a little bit of fight against the Swansea side, where we performed really badly in the first half. When we look at the stats, these are all provided by Squawka, by the way. I thought it was quite interesting. I'll pick a few of my favourites out. I think obviously you can look at goals scored, 6 to 11 to 14. Shot accuracy I thought was really interesting. We've actually been really accurate with our shots in January when we've been shit. 61% compared to 42 in December.
So, sorry, Chris. Let me just ask. I guess let's go walk through the questions on this then, because the big one is, for the start, are we still creating chances comparatively in January? Because the argument is we're playing against low block teams, we're struggling to find our way through them. Is that borne out?
Yeah, we created more chances in January than we did in December, 61 to 52, which I think is really interesting. We are having so much more of the ball, though. I think from an eyeball thing anyway, it's actually not proven. In stats, it's 58% possession in both times, but I think the worrying thing for me is our expected goals has gone down, and that's not shown on this graphic. Every single time we're not expected to score because we're not creating good chances, and this is what comes down to. Chances created, stats are great, but they're not the be all and end all, because you can create a chance, but if it's not a good chance, it matters for now.
What's expected goals mean in this instance? Is that like based on your opposition?
No, so expected goals are based on where your shot's taken from. If there's pressure on you, on the ball, if there's a defender running into you, where your shot's based from. So, for example, a penalty is roughly 1 expected goal. It's as close to an expected goal as you can possibly get. But if you took a shot from, let's say, the edge of the 18-yard box on the right-hand side, with 2 men closing you down, a keeper that can cut off an angle as well, because it's all based on that, then your expected goals is probably 0.05.
So essentially,
it's how good your chances and how good the chances.
Yeah. So sorry, just to go back on that. So what essentially you say? Ours have gone down.
Our expected goals have gone down per game,
and that's because of where the the positions we're trying to score from, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. So we're not working the ball into as good areas, even though we're creating more chances, which, would explain the January to December, why we scored more goals from less chances created.
Yeah.
When you go back to September, though, we had less possession, which I think is really interesting. We had 77 chances created, but scored 14 goals this time. Our shooting accuracy was the highest it's been, and our passing accuracy was the highest it's been. And interestingly as well, our average defensive actions per game was more than in January. So you'd think when we're losing games, we'd be better at making tackles or headed clearances and stuff like that. We weren't. We were better at it during September. I think it's down to the fact that we were winning the ball in better areas of the pitch. You know, we had that high pressing style at the start of the season. We knew that we were trying to win the ball back further up the pitch. Ryan Giggs did a really interesting thing on it, actually. Maybe it was September, October, for The Independent, on how he thinks Liverpool should be beaten. And one of the things that he'd said was, what you do is you literally just play a long ball over the midfield. In simple terms, that's what you do. You miss out the midfield, you miss out the press, you force their defenders into action. I read that September, October time, and having just seen January, that's exactly how teams scored against us.
It's interesting, the possession one's the one for me. We're boss without the ball, majority, especially if the opposition have got the ball in their half or around the centre circle. When it's near our goal, we're not that good. But I think sometimes in these games when you're playing against, you know, low blocks, we could almost do with losing the ball a bit more, but win it back. So we're teams, if you're low blocking Liverpool and you win the ball at the minute, I agree with Chris. Teams will just pump it forward, and then we have to hope that we get it back, which we do. I think if we could start, you know, if we could invite teams onto us a little bit more, sometimes almost like as if to say, we need to take a chance and play that risky pass. And if it works, it's brilliant. And if it doesn't work and they get the ball back, it's not the end of the world. Yeah. Because at the minute, it's just, we're a little bit safe, I think. Yeah. And by being safe, A, the opposition is set, but B, they never break on you. They never come out at you, and then you can exploit that and go again. Like, I mean, at the beginning of the season, we were just deadly winning the ball back goal. It was in the back of the net. Yeah. We'd done it at Arsenal at the beginning of the season. We'd done it a few of these games. You know, Leicester, for example, it was very much like that. Against the likes of, you know, especially against Hull at the weekend, or maybe even to an extent at Sunderland, we had a lot of the ball, but we didn't do a lot with it, if that makes sense. And I think the way we're set up to play with the Gengen press and Firmino as the false nine, we're not really set up at the minute to beat the low block. So I would encourage us, if I had to say, I mean, I don't know what goes on in the dressing room and stuff. Pick, you know, that forward pass, lads, that we're being a bit safe and we're playing it to Klein, or we're playing it to Milner, or we're playing it along the back, Henderson to the centre halves. Make it a forward pass and trust your ability to make that pass. Yeah. Trust your mate to control it. And in the worst case, if he doesn't control it, someone go and fucking win it back. Well, and I think we get ourselves into better situations.
Well, I think it kind of leads on, because I think the other chief, I guess, I would say, well, let's say excuse for the sake of it, is we've not had our best players available to us. Yep. You know, and we Coutinho coming back from injury, Mane gone at the African Cup of Nations, we've had to change things around. And then again, to some extent, obviously coupled with teams that we've come up against as well, Chris, you know, and a change in the tactical approach from them. We've got Coutinho back now, we've got Mane back now, and yet it doesn't feel like we've got any. You said yourself, even though it felt felt very similar. The Chelsea game felt very much like every other game that we played in that, except it was slightly more excusable because Chelsea are a really, really good team. Is there anything in that in terms of how what I'm trying to drive at? Is there evidence to suggest that having Coutinho and Mane back, this is just a blip and them rediscovering their form? Or whatever.
I personally believe, and you know, we discussed this in the office, I don't think this is a good comparison to draw September to January. And the reason that I don't think it is, because teams played us differently then. And I think the December one's actually more how teams have started to play us. You know, I don't think they've done it as well as they did in the January. But when we look back at this September stuff, teams were being open against us. Teams were letting themselves come out, attack Liverpool, whereas what we've seen in January and to the latter part of December is a willingness to sit back and be really patient. So I think kind of what you were alluding to, Steve, is we want to draw teams out, but there's a patience there that they're not being drawn out because they know you've just got to do your fucking job, and your job is to sit back and not be drawn into things. And, you know, we might see the odd player going, but it's very rare we see a one-man press become a two-man press, become a three-man press against us, because there's no point in doing that. They lose the defensive solidarity. And I honestly believe right now we need to be kind of what you were saying, very much more brave, more 1-2s. You've said it for a few weeks now. You need to see those guys on the edge of the area, A, in form, because I don't think they are, and B, being brave with it as well. Yeah. You know, Phil Coutinho has created, I think it's 4 chances in 4 games, whereas I think it was 11 in 4 games before his injury. So you can see just that. All right, he's playing against low block sides, they're doing it a little bit better, but I don't think he's in as good form either. I don't think it's as simple as they're going to come back on the pitch and it's all going to be all right.
That being said, you had a look at the pass maps and what have you, and how Liverpool line up, and we play very, very differently when we've got Sadio Mane in the side.
Yeah, we do, and I'll tell you what, I'll bring them up onto the screen now for you. So anybody who hasn't seen these before, these are from at 11 Tegan 11, who plots pass maps for everybody in fucking football, to be perfectly honest with you.
In fucking
football. He does them for all the European leagues, every single game he's got it set up like. So if you've not seen them before, I'll just kind of explain what they are. These are average positions where the players are, first and foremost. The bigger the red dot, the more involved, the more passes they've made. The bigger the grey line, the more passes in that direction they've had it. The little arrows you can see on Adam Lallana on the Liverpool vs Stoke. You can see they're movement lines essentially. So what you can see is, if you compare, well, let's take the middle one when Liverpool played Swansea and we lost 3-2. Adam Lallana was playing right wing.
No Mane in that game.
No Mane. Adam Lallana's playing right wing. His average position was the 10. You look at the other 2 games, all right, we lost one of them. Sadio Mane's the furthest player forward for Liverpool Football Club in both of those. Now, the difference for me in between these 2 games is that look at the position of the centre midfielders between Hull and look at them between Stoke. So look where Emre Can's positioning is, compare it to Gini Wijnaldum's. That, for me, is the key to this pass map, because what you can see is Adam Lallana's taken a really central position against Hull, which is really far away from Sadio Mane, and he's not got those options there for a pass. So when Sadio Mane's got the ball, there's barely any grey lines coming out from him because there's no one to pass to other than Nathaniel Klein. And these passes are, I think the grey line minimum is a 5-pass minimum. So Sadio Mane's only played 5 passes to one player in that entire game, Nathaniel Klein. Look at it against Stoke. And Gini Wijnaldum's position is further up, which means Adam Lallana's pushed over more to the right. And what you're seeing is a greater balance to this. It's almost more symmetrical. There's a standardised distance between players. There's 3 passes for every single person who's on the ball for a start. Sadio Mane's got passes to Nathaniel Klein, he's got passes to Adam Lallana, and he's hopefully getting passes to and from Divock Origi as well. And there's also passes back to Dejan Lovren. So instantly there in that 4-1 victory, Sadio Mane's got 4 options to pass. In the one where we lost, he's got 1. And that's a real worry for me. Is that, you know, compare that to the middle one. Look at Nathaniel Klein's positioning. Yeah. There's an over-reliance on a fullback.
This is exactly what we've talked about, isn't it, Steve? We're saying what's been happening, or what it felt like has been happening, is exactly this. We've Nathaniel Klein and James Milner, and again, you can see how important James Milner is throughout that. And you know, mercifully, he's given support to some extent, I guess, in those other games. But too many times, and this is what it's felt like watching it, we work the ball over to one of Nathaniel Klein or James Milner, and now it's Nathaniel Klein. If it's James Milner, sort of okay, because look, he's a midfielder. He's a very good footballer. He's got good vision, all these kind of stuff. You know, he was still our top assist maker last season, playing in midfield, or being all over the midfield. You're kind of cool with that because that's what he's there. He's a midfielder playing fullback. When it works to Nathaniel Klein, what is he going to do? How many times have we seen Klein get the ball and he has a little look and then he's like, not back on myself here. So he comes back inside and he plays that simple pass over and over again. And I think I'm right in saying you can see how often the ball goes back to a Jordan Henderson or whatever, because Jordan Henderson's the guy that when all else fails, get it back to Hendo and he'll start something going again.
I had a theory, and we were speaking about this before I seen these pass maps. Me and you had this theory before, didn't we? And I was saying teams are happy to let Klein and Milner have the ball. Shane Long, again, I refer back to this a lot, spoke about it after the second cup game we were happy to let Liverpool's fullbacks have the ball. It was Trent in that game, because obviously Klein was injured, but same premise. We don't do enough. I feel sorry for Klein. We don't support him well enough at all. The ball goes to him a lot, and quite often he's like 20 yards, because Henderson will play the pass, or it's usually Lovren on the right, isn't it? Pass forward, or even Matip, and he's there. And Nathaniel Klein isn't very good at beating players. We know that. That's not his game. Yeah. Milner can, to an extent, beat his man, I think, or at least tries. Klein very rarely will try to do it. He doesn't back himself, or he's been told not to do it, or a combination of the two. Yeah. So when he gets that ball, we need it's the Stoke one. Look at the Stoke one. He's got the options he needs. He can go inside to Lallana, he can go down the line to Mane. If needs be, he can use Henderson, or he can use a centre half. So Stoke go, well, we can cut one of those off. It's impossible. It's almost impossible to cut 4 of those off. And if you do try and cut 4 of those off, there's a good chance there's someone else is available to him. Too often, and just the eyeball test, I feel he gets the ball, and the only option he's got is to go a 5-yard pass backwards. Yeah. We're not. I used the term overload. We don't overload their fullback. So if I was playing Liverpool as the left back, I'd be quite happy to have Nathaniel Klein one-on-one all game. Yeah. I'd back myself that I can do a job on him. I would be terrified of Sadio Mane, Nathaniel Klein, and Adam Lallana being in my zone. Yeah. I wouldn't know what to do. Yeah. I'd try and probably let Klein have the ball and let him do something with it. So in other words, the midfield, the dynamics of our midfield trio dictate that, I think. Yeah. And I think a lot of the problem, and I don't mean to dig one player out because it's a systematic thing.
Emre Can.
I think a lot of it's on Emre. But Emre, you got to remember this, Paul. Emre doesn't pick himself.
No.
Emre doesn't say, I'm playing today, boss. Yeah. The manager picks Emre Can, knowing Emre Can's strengths and Emre Can's weaknesses. And I think that's been a massive issue with it. Yeah. And when he does play, look at that whole one. He's deeper than Henderson.
Would you? Because you look at these every week. Would you say 2 things? For a start, is that indicative of how Emre Can tends to play, or position?
No, it's actually it's been dependent on who's playing with him. When Phil Coutinho's been playing, to be honest with you, the main thing that I see from Emre Can is he's always in someone else's space. And it's not always defensive. Sometimes he's just in Phil Coutinho's boots. I just don't think positionally he's very good. Yeah. To be honest with you, I think it's a bit of a lottery where he's going to end up on an average position, and that's as bad as you can say about somebody, I suppose.
And the other question is, in terms of, and let's ignore how the opposition are playing for the moment, but in terms of when Liverpool are performed best, does the opposition tend to look more like that and more like Stoke Hull than it does against Swansea? Because my thinking is, what we just said about Nathaniel Klein, it was baffling because in those cup games that we talked about in January, that wasn't Nathaniel Klein, it was Trent Alexander-Arnold, and we've got an 18-year-old kid who were even completely isolated on the wing as well.
One of the reasons that we put James Milner at left back is because that person sees more of the ball than most people on the pitch, and to mirror that, Nathaniel Klein sees a lot of the ball for Liverpool, and having an 18-year-old, which is why I think Trent was put in, because he's a midfielder first and foremost, and I think he's comfortable on the ball. But the thing with the Stoke one, Divock Origi's not very good on these either, to be perfectly honest with you. Yeah. He's a little bit more. Roberto Firmino always seems to crop up wherever we're having most of the ball, he seems to crop up. So, for example, you can see we've had a lot of the ball with this whole Liverpool one. James Milner, Coutinho, he's always over to that side where the ball is, like he's a little bit of a hugger, whereas I think that, our big he's a little bit of a hugger.
I like that.
Whereas the Sadio Mane to Klein seems, in an attacking sense, the most passes in, yet he's the other side of the pitch on average position. When it's average position, it's very difficult to draw conclusive.
Yeah, it's opinion. Not individual actions.
Exactly, but I think what we do tend to see when we play well is it looks very much like this, and there's very, very good spacing in between the players, and it's all about options.
That Henderson-Wijnaldum gap compared to the on the Stoke game, compared to the Henderson-Can grouping on the whole game, is just indicative, I think. It's just absolute. That's the key. Look at that. So Wijnaldum is far more advanced, and by being far more advanced and slightly on the left a bit, that gives Adam Lallana the chance to go a bit more forward, a bit more to the right, where he can go and help us full back. Yeah. When we're almost playing Can and Henderson, who are more defensively minded, although Can has.
How often? Because that's a start. You see that in a game when it's both of them are offering off the centre halves. You don't need
no
to.
need to.
And I do wonder, and again, I think it's a sign of bravery as well. And I do wonder how much of this, because it's bravery is what it boils down to, and maybe a touch, we're lacking it a touch. But also, I wonder how much of this is the woundings from what we've suffered to some extent. And there is a mentality like the Emre Can. I almost understand it to some extent, because you're thinking we've got the attacking talent going down there, and they should be enough to break it down. But we also know that we're weak on the counter attack. So if we've got someone else who's a little bit more towards our half, it's an extra body to help sort things out. Except, as we've known from watching those games, that's not worked in any way, shape or form.
I know you mentioned about not focusing a bit on the opposition, but I think we should a little bit in where they are as well. So they're deep. If they're deep, your two options are you go and stand on them, get the ball and give it off. And Lallana's a great example. If Lallana's happy getting the ball with his back to goal, he can do his Lallana turn and be away, or he can knock it off sideways, which he tends to do a lot on that. Emre Can's not going to do that. There's no way Emre Can wants the ball with his back to goal on the tee.
He's almost ignored in the whole one, because he's right next to Henderson, so there's no point in passing to him. There's not many passes coming into him, because what's the point? Jordan's there.
He was against Hull, he looked lost. That against the low block, you would almost consider, I know the manager tried later on, Coutinho in midfield, because he wanted, you could tell he wants someone with the ball to come and collect the ball and be dangerous. I don't see I don't know how fit Gini was, and there's a million different things. For the life of me, I'll never understand Emre Can playing against the shit teams. Now, for a while, when he was in form...
Well, look at the Chelsea game. I thought he added something to the midfield in that game, because we needed his physicality, and he grew into that, and he got more and more. He started winning headers, and he started being... We could go a bit more direct because of him, which I think helped us big time. But you're right, the games where we need a little bit more guile... Well, I'm saying that. I did also think during the Chelsea game we could have done with Lallana, Wijnaldum being in the midfield, because it helps turn things around a bit quicker, etc.
But you remember those sliding tackles that Emre Can does, and that's that's a consequence of Chelsea trying to play through us as well. Let's not forget that. When you're just lumping balls over the top, it really doesn't matter from a defensive sense whether it's Wijnaldum or Emre Can. They're going over his fucking head.
And also...
Sorry, do you mind if I just bring it back to what you were talking about Nathaniel Clyne before? And I thought you made a really interesting point about him not being able to beat a man and stuff, but I just wanted to sort of back that up. It's roughly around 1 in 10 where you complete a cross. Now, factor that in, you're a fullback, and you now got to beat your man. So you've almost, let's say it's a 50-50 whether you're going to beat your man. That's now a 1 in 22 or 1 in 20 chance of completing a cross after beating a man, isn't it? It's not a good option, which I think is, we can think about it and go, it's not a good option for Nathaniel Clyne to beat a man and then put a ball into the box. It's a 1 in 20 instead of a 1 in 10.
Which is fine if Dejan Lovren is smashing them down the line for him to run onto, which is a completely different. But we know it's not. It's the ball gets worked to Nathaniel Clyne's feet, and he opens up, and he's more often than not he's looking into the midfield, isn't he? You know what I mean? And because he knows he's not going down the line.
Exactly. So at Plymouth at home, I remember Trent got in a couple of times in behind his defender, and he was able to come meet the ball and get good crosses in, and he did it really well. Their left back didn't know he was lost. Clyne isn't getting that. Everything to Clyne is to his feet. Nathaniel Clyne, or behind him. Nathaniel Clyne's biggest asset, I think, going forward is his pace. He's rapid.
And I think when we looked at play a little diagonal for him to run onto, I think he looks dangerous.
A, the opposition aren't giving him the chance to do that. They know that. And B, everything's to his feet. And if you're a lad who wants to run fast with the ball and you're a fullback, you know what? There's a reason why you're a fullback. Yeah. It's because you're not a winger. Yeah. You know what I mean? Give Sadio Mane the ball at his feet, and he can go and he's fast and he can beat a man.
He uses that stop-start to beat his man, doesn't he? Nathaniel Clyne needs to get into something first.
Nathaniel Clyne's a fullback for a reason. He's probably not that. He's probably at one stage in his life been a winger, and someone said, you know what, you're not that good.
It's how everyone is, isn't it? Like...
No, I remember Carragher's famous "Who wants to be a fullback?" It's kind of right. You end up there if you're not that good a winger. Yeah. You do, and that's not a criticism of. He's a really good fullback. But I'm defending Liverpool, and I'm thinking, right, lads, today, who do we want to have the ball? We'll let Clyne and Lovren have the ball because we don't think they can beat us. Yeah. So and this is a point I want to bring up dead quickly, and I don't know if you want to get onto it, is that I think too often in the January games, we've played at the game that the opposition want us to play. We're not playing our game. So in September to November, we were playing the game that we wanted it to be. December it was a bit mix and match, you know, at times. January we've been dictated to. We're not dictating games, and that's an issue. And we've not been able to, through our own ability or will to desire, name the reason. We've not been able to make it a Liverpool game. We made the weekend a whole game. We made the Swansea game a Swansea game. The Southampton game was perfect for Southampton. We've not gone, right lads, this is a Liverpool game. And I don't know how you change that.
Yeah.
But that's something that we desperately are missing at the minute.
It is that thing. I say it comes down to it's part reaction to an opposition that have changed tact against us, but it does feel like there's a certain spark that's been lost. I wonder whether there's a fatigue issue now. We were trying to find running stats that are just not available to the general public. I actually spoke to Dan Kennett, who writes for Tompkins Times, about it, just about the general inclination. And whilst it's true that actually the spell, which was Sunderland to Swansea, we ran loads less in those games than we would normally do. Our levels dipped significantly. They've actually been back up the last couple of games, which also I don't think is any accident that, okay, Mane come off the bench in the Chelsea game, but you know, and then we've gone back. They're the games where we're starting to get back to what we're trying to do. The thing that comes out of it for me, and I think it's James Milner, because on the flip of what they say about the Nathaniel Klein stuff, Milner has become so central to how we play. And my two fears are from him is that A, I think we're burning him out a little bit, and B, when Liverpool, we've said this a few times now, well recently, Chris, when we talk about James Milner, what we say is, we know the game is getting beyond us when James Milner starts cutting in 30 yards from the byline and putting an aimless cross into the box. I think have we got the...
Yeah, we've got some stats on James Milner's crossing now, and you know, we'll go through it. Basically,
I like that.
It's all right, isn't it? I made it quite easy myself and just copy and pasted the thing from Excel. But anyway, so you can see the top one is January. We drew 3, lost 2. We made 139 crosses in that 5-game period. James Milner made 45 crosses. He only completed 10 of them and made 1 assist. Compare that to when we won 4, drew 1 in the middle section. We made 101, so 38 crosses less in that 5-game period. And we won more games. Milner made less crosses, 42, completed less, though 7, no assists. And when we were really good, this is the one that really, you know, I'm really interested in. We won 4 and drew 1. We only made 86 crosses in those 5 games. And Milner only made 33. He only completed 4. So what that says to me, I don't know whether you guys agree, is that when we play best, Milner's not forced to cross the ball. All that for me. To say that.
That will do for me. Well, yeah, it's proof that we don't just make this shit up. There's Excel things copied into Photoshop expertly.
Pie charts.
By Mr. Page. But no, I get that general feeling from that. I do, you know, and we're going to be talking a little bit about this in the, it'll either be toward the back end of part 2 or maybe even beyond. But in terms of, I don't see that there's anything wrong in some respects, because there are instances when it's a perfectly reasonable tactic, as evidenced by the assist that he did get, which is the Swansea one, which is a cross to Roberto Firmino. We actually put another cross in that for Firmino as well. I think it was 2 crosses in that game.
Wijnaldum,
yeah. Yeah, Wijnaldum, where we profited from. So there is clearly it can work, and I can think of plenty of instances where we've played those type of balls and they've been just slightly over it or slightly under hit, or it's just been miscontrolled at the other end. But the question is whether we have the personnel to do it, but we will come on to that.
Well, here you go, right? So there's, what was that, 87 plus 33, 120 crosses, and he's got 1 assist. That's less than 1% chance of a goal from a James Milner cross. That tells you all you need to know about that tactic.
Yeah. I've got no issue with James Milner seeing a lot of the ball for Liverpool. I think that's fine, because he's a good footballer. The issue is what he's doing with the ball at the second. Is it all on him? Is it on us to try and help him out a bit more? You know, he didn't have, for a lot of that, is it the period there, he didn't have Phil Coutinho.
Top of the middle period.
So a bit of the top of the middle. He didn't have Phil Coutinho on the left with him. So he often had Firmino. And we know Firmino is happy, you know.
He wasn't good on the left either.
Yeah, he didn't play very well when he played left. He goes wandering, that's what he's meant to do. I think he's taught to do that. Those times you had a Regi in front of him, you know, he's not showing for the ball really, is he? So in a similar way where we...
But since Coutinho's come back, do you think they've won too as well as they were in like the September?
No, they don't look like they've lost a little bit of something.
There's definitely something. And in the end, I think we get to a point, or he gets to a point where he goes, what do you want me to do with this, lads?
Yeah.
I don't know what to do.
And I'm fucking knackered now.
I'm probably a bit tired. Yeah. And they're doubling up on me. They're letting me have the ball. I get near the final third, and then they come out to me. I've either got to go backwards to Jordan or put it in the box. Bear in mind, we're either losing or drawing these games at the time.
And all we ever do is cry out for someone to take decisive action in those games. If we spent the vast majority of a match going side to side, safe pass to safe pass to safe pass, he probably, whether it's rightly or wrongly, given that evidence, someone should have a little word in his ear. He's trying to impact the game in the only really way he can, because he's got two choices. He drops the shoulder and tries to go on the outside, which at 75 minutes, for a 31-year-old who's ran up and down the fucking pitch for 75 minutes, plus every other match that he started so far this season, is probably not the enticing option that we might think it might be to him. And so he's left with, well, I back myself, I back my ability to pick someone else.
He has got a good cross on him, which is mad. He can cross it.
But it's the angles of the cross though as well. This is what it doesn't show, is it? You know, you can get to the byline, you can cause panic in a 6-yard box by whipping a ball in with your left foot. It's not James Milner's job. That's not what he's there to do. But a ball that's floated in from 20, 25 yards in front of the defender, it's nice and easy. They see the path of the ball, they head it out. It's pretty easy, it's pretty standard stuff. Yeah. And that's where I think we're falling down, is he's crossing from an area of the pitch that the opposition team want him to cross from. I also think a lot of it's desperation. So if you look at those January games, we were in front in the United game for a long period. Other than that, we haven't really been we've either been level or behind. Sunderland, they scored pretty quickly after we scored both times, funny enough. I say we had a lot of it at United. And the other games, we've been chasing games.
Yeah.
So he gets the ball, and if we're winning, he'd happily go back to Jordan Henderson, or he'd happily go back, cut inside for a little 5-yard pass.
I think
he gets a bit desperate and thinks, especially at home, if I pass this backwards again, all you're going to hear from these lot is, oh. Yeah. So it goes in, and it's shit, and it doesn't work, and we score off 1% of them, and it's ad nauseum. What I would say, Paul, very quickly on that, is if that's I don't know if the manager's saying don't do it, and if he is, Milner shouldn't be playing because he's not doing as he's told, basically. If it is what the manager wants, then we haven't got a striker who heads the ball, have we, really? Yeah. So what we sold Benteke, we got rid of him, Klopp didn't want him.
Well, we will talk about the target man thing a bit later on, but you're right. The minute exactly that is that if you're going to use that as a tactic, your crosses have to be not just perfect in terms of the delivery, but the timing and the positioning and all those kind of things. That, or you're playing the percentages and you're just lobbing it into a dangerous area, hoping for a bit of madness. Because he's probably looking at it and going, people do this against us all the time, and it just fucking leads to craziness, and they score. I'll try a bit of that. I'll see if that works out for us. He's been watching his Man United, the last Man United title winning DVD, when that's how they scored all their goals. Kick the ball as hard as you can towards the 6-yard box and see what happens.
We haven't got any players who are good in the air.
No,
I know. Rarely have we attacking-wise, and that's probably an issue.
So I guess, as we said, there's defo evidence there to suggest that we are just playing more aimless crosses for no reason. Now, we've got the goalkeeper thing that we're going to come on to. Now, Steve, you and I did quite a lot on this early on in the week, obviously off the back of the last game, which was great. So we will touch upon this briefly because obviously we've got Chris in here, and I think since then, Andrew Beasley at Base Tune to Reds written a really good article for Tompkins Times. Now, it's behind the paywall on that. As always, I would highly recommend paying the subscription to Tompkins Times because it is the best thought out, the best balanced, and just honestly some of the best Liverpool writing you can get. Some good stuff on Read Liverpool.
It's fine, I'm alright.
Some good stuff on there. But in terms of like if you ever want to feel better or have a real understanding of what's going on,
I love LFC TV, man. You know it's fucking bosh.
Liar. Big fan of Claire.
Honestly, love Claire. No, I'm only joking, Paul. That was
yeah.
It was a joke.
Bit of humour.
It fell flat.
Bit of humour.
So yeah,
we've got to just quickly do a couple of minutes.
A lead balloon would have had more effect.
Yeah. Chris, just to summarise, I guess, because without getting too in depth on the goalkeeping stuff, I think as we can all see,
both shit.
Both of our goalkeepers.
Well summarised. Yeah. Subscribe to the Tompkins Times for that.
Yeah, I think there's it's by and large it's much of a muchness between the two, but I almost. Even though Karius has made more mistakes that have led to goals and more mistakes that have probably cost us points, I think there's encouragement, if we want to look at it that way, that he's got slightly more of the things that we'd kind of like a goalkeeper to do. He's fractionally better than Mignolet.
I think so. I think Andrew explains it really well in his article, doesn't he? That, saves to goal ratios are one of the most terrible things you can possibly use for a goalkeeper because it doesn't take into account where the shots are taken from and stuff. But I think he goes back on to talk about the expected goals model, and the problem with both keepers is they are conceding more goals than they're expected to by facing those shots, which basically means they're just not saving enough of the shots that they should be. That's the big worry, I think. You look around the league at the top teams and they're all doing better than their expected goals. So let's for example, David De Gea is expected to concede 2, he concedes 1. Whereas Mignolet is expected to concede 2, he concedes 3. And you're always fighting a fucking losing battle on that front. And I think you're right. I got a little bit of confidence out of the Karius stats. Yeah. I think you've seen over the last month, A, he's had a lot of game time because of the cup competitions and stuff, but B, he's made some really good saves in those games, and I don't think he can be blamed for a lot of the goals in the way that you can look at a few of the last results and go in the league and go, Mignolet's to blame for them.
Yeah. You know what does me head in with Mignolet, and I don't want to go too much into it? He makes his great saves when he's already made a mistake, or already one down, or already, what I mean? So, he's literally not looking at the ball at Chelsea, literally not looking at the ball and lets a goal in, and then he saves a pen. And then you're almost like, well, is that a wash? And then you think about it, and you're like, no, because he really should have been looking at the ball. Yeah. I'd have loved him to do that. Against Hull, Hernandez comes through one-on-one, and he comes out big, makes himself big, and does really well. But that's he just dropped the ball at the lad's feet. Yeah. And it's just, so and then you start, digging him out of it, and I do sometimes, and we all do. It's what we do on this show. We say what.
Slag off Mignolet.
No, but we call it as we see it, don't we? And if he's played, that's what you should. I mean, I don't think your viewers will want us to bullshit. Mm-hmm. You tell it as it is, and then you get people going, you know what? It wasn't all Mignolet's fault. Did you see the saves he made? I was like, I really did. I thought it was a really good save, but he was shit before that.
Yeah. You mean you don't just watch the match on Match of the Day? You mean watch the full game?
It's like.
Whoa.
Bad, I know.
No, you're right.
You know what I mean?
That's the perennial problem with the goalkeeper, isn't it? But you are spot on.
You can't justify at the minute either of those being Liverpool's first choice goalie. There's too many questions about both of them. And I mentioned this on the last show, and I don't want to go too much, but Lloris has made a couple of shockers at City. Petr Cech had a nightmare the other day. I've seen, David De Gea at West Ham give them a goal, just literally let them score. But you feel the best was the money in the bank situation. Yeah. My issue with Mignolet and Karius at the minute is that
they can't save.
No, because basically, I right now, I would go Karius very quickly. I would go Karius and say, right, what your cup performances have earned you a shot, because we dropped you after making 2 howlers, which he did. It was West Ham and it was Bournemouth, where he was shite. We dropped you and played you in the cups. Now Mignolet's come back in, and he's played well. He's done all right. He's done decent, and then he's made 2. I'd say howlers. I know people dispute the Chelsea one, but I think it's a howler. He wasn't watching the ball. He was looking the other way. Does that mean if you're consistent in your approach, that means Karius comes back in, doesn't it?
Maybe, yeah.
It does.
Yeah. But maybe he needs one more clear-cut howler.
But having said that,
maybe Klopp didn't.
Have we got a clear-cut howler? A
clear-cut howler. Having said that, Paul, you wouldn't be confident, would you?
No.
Either way, every Liverpool fan goes to the match not confident in their goalie.
Yeah.
It's shit. We've been here too long. Since Pepe Reina was good. That's how we felt about our goalies, haven't we? It doesn't help. It doesn't, and it mustn't help us centre halves.
Yeah.
As bad as they've been, it must be awful when you don't trust the fella behind you. That, you know what, if I do make a mistake, he might bail me out the shit a bit. At the minute, I don't think anyone feels that.
Yeah. Me and Tom know all about that.
So just.
In front of Paul.
Yeah, I've had me Lucas and Lucas partnership in front of me. So moving on, we want to do a bit more on this. We're going to talk about Didier Mann's criticism of Jurgen Klopp in this part, but obviously we've done loads on this, so we'll move that over to part 2. But just quickly before we go, we've got one more. You've got an injury stat, Chris. So the question being, again, just going back to the reasons why Liverpool have not been great, the last of the big ones, it goes down to, have we been unlucky with injuries more so than rivals?
I don't know whether it's unlucky, but we've definitely had more injuries. I found the information on Physio Room. Liverpool have had 54 injuries this season, since the start of August. Spurs 36, Arsenal 33, Chelsea 27, City 34, and United have had 39. So there's 15 injuries more than United and basically 20 more than all the other teams, which doesn't take into account things like how long they've missed and stuff like that, and it doesn't take into account the muscle injuries and all that, but it does make you think about that fucking harebrained guy who keeps going on about Klopp's injuries.
I guess there's two sides to that, isn't there, Steve? There will be a certain, some of it will be luck, you know, some of it is bad luck to some extent, but it does make you, the fear creeps in. There's like, is this because of the nature of how we play football, how we've done our pre-season and what have you? But equally, I think it's the other prong to it is we're not quite capable of handling the injuries that we've had by comparison to our rivals, and we'll look a little bit at the squad depth of our rivals in part two. But that's I don't know what the proper answer is to that, but I think it is probably a combination of our approach crossed with a little bit of misfortune. Because let's be honest, our approach has got nothing to do with Phil Coutinho getting injured as one example of that. And there's your best player, or Danny Ings. There's your best player and a guy who probably would have helped us out in the cups per se, out for a long stretch of the season because of...
Doesn't help, and it doesn't prevent your goalie smashing Lovren in the face, does it? But it does. It might indicate a couple of the hamstring injuries or the pulls or the niggles. It might,
and even illness.
Yeah,
you know, I think what you've got to be able to do as well is you've got to be able to look at it and go, well, look, if people are tired, you're more likely to get ill. And we've had Klavan's ill at the moment. Did we have Lovren was ill last week? You know, I know it's that time of the year and stuff, but this is all. There's
a lot going around the city of Liverpool.
I mean?
I've been ill since fucking November. It's ridiculous. Imagine having to run around on top of that. That's the reason I've not been to the gym. That's the reason.
That's definitely it. And what I would say is that it kind of, when you're playing more games because you can't rotate because you don't trust your squad, in theory you're more likely to pick up an injury. So Roberto Firmino, the manager's pretty much said he was playing injured for a while.
Yeah.
But what do you want me to do? Emre Can had a calf.
Been playing injured. Henderson's been playing injured.
Matip has got his issue as well. But we have to play them because the manager or whatever doesn't trust what's behind them. And again, we'll come on to that later. I'm, you know what? If I've got a sore leg and I run, there's a very good chance my leg's going to be sorer at some stage. It's not going to make it better. Yeah. And that is definitely an issue. I think so say for example, Martial feels his calf. Oh, you know, I know he's not being picked, but when he was, I felt my calf, boss. You have a sit down with Rashford and come in.
Yeah.
Phil Coutinho or Firmino goes, my calf's killing me here, boss. Mane's an African and Coutinho's out.
You got a cup game to play in, mate.
Well, lad, get on the pitch because we're fucked without you.
Yeah.
And it is sometimes it can be that. Yeah. It can be that basically.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks very much for watching part one. Coming up in part two, we're going to be discussing criticism of Jurgen Klopp and whether we think it's justified or not, and having a little bit of a look at things like where he makes his substitutions, some tactical decisions, etc., etc. We're going to be discussing FSG and a little bit about whether we feel they're fit and suitable.
The leaked documents.
A little bit on the leaked documents. How do we go about beating
readily
low block
available
sides?
since 2015? leaked documents.
Whether we need
by leak, do you mean put in a public forum that anyone can access?
Exactly. Whether we need a target man, whether we can beat low blockers, whether three at the back is an option, and also looking ahead to Liverpool's remaining fixtures and what we can do to turn Liverpool out of the slump. That'll be called in part two. And
Paul, what's in part three?
Probably part three.
What about
as well.
part four?
All of those things will be stretched out over the coming parts. If you want to watch the rest, you can do. They're on the redmentv.com. Go over and subscribe to the Redmen TV, and you'll be able to access them free for the first month and be better and have the answers to where it's going wrong at Liverpool FC. Cheers.